is our latest protagonist in the Assassin's Creed franchise, at least in the past portion of the game. He is of mixed ethnicity. He has a mother that is of Ghaga origin and a father that is of European descent.
Connor is really someone who's different to Altair, who was driven by duty. It was his job to be an assassin. He's different from Ezio, who was driven by revenge. We wanted a character who was noble, who was out to fight against injustice wherever he saw it, instead of just personal revenge or just because it was a task he had to pursue.
Connor's got this very strong ideology, and he believes, much as the assassins do, is that all people should be free to sort of forge their own path through life. He is opposed to those that oppress, that terrorize, that would seek to impose their view of the world on others. And so that could be anything from, colonials to potentially other people that he lives with. He is at least initially intrigued by the message of the American Revolution, although he certainly never declares himself a patriot or joins the Patriot Army or anything like that. He just happens to see people that are fighting for what he believes to be the same core values that he holds.
We wanted it to be muddy. We wanted him to be often confused about whether what he was doing was the right thing. We wanted the world to get in the way, but really for events not to play out the way he expected.
He sees the world as being very black and white. There is a clearly defined good and evil out there, or so he at least initially believes. And so this is sort of the guy that you take control of and come into his life at a fairly early age, and then follow him for several decades as he grows and matures and learns the meaning of things like compromise and balance and shades of gray.
Connor was raised by the Mohawk Nation. We really felt that we want to honor that nation. And for that, we want to have someone that came from Native origins as an actor. The performance for Connor needed to be calm, but at the same time, you had to feel that he could get really angry for things that he felt were just, and it had to be just in his voice.
Simple seems a bit charitable.
Cheer up, Connor. For tonight, we are all victors.
Coming up with how Connor looked, I think, was one of the hardest things we had to do in the game. We knew we wanted him to be Native American, but what does that mean? We have an 18th century, setting, we have Native American as an idea, and we have this sort of very iconic assassin's costume. And we felt that if we went completely period, we would lose this unique quality that the assassin has. We can put an assassin on a poster and many gamers can immediately identify him, even if it's a different flavor. But at the same time, we didn't want him to just stick out like a sore thumb. So the way we approached it in the end was this idea that being an assassin is almost a job. You go to that job and you wear the uniform of that job, and that's the assassin's hood. That said, he would then customize it. He would go back and touch it up and bring his own personality to it.
Trying to make a new assassin, it's an abstract challenge. You've got to try and make it the same character, but Connor's different from Ezio and Altair, so we tried to get in a bit of his personality, and that was the big challenge there, was trying to make it the same but different. When we started working on him, it was like the previous assassins, where they were kind of smaller guys in lots of armor, and the more we worked with Connor, we wanted to make him heavier and stronger. We found that we kept working with the silhouette to make him good from all angles. If you don't have a good silhouette on a character, then the animation just will never look good. And we kept stripping things away and found out that he became bulkier and bulkier, so he's a lot stronger than the previous assassins, and that really informed a lot of the way he jumps. So he uses a lot of effort. He's no longer just gracefully sailing through the sky like a swan.
A lot of the improvements are in the animation section. There's rarely an animation playing on Connor that is not procedurally deformed with foot placement or inverse kinematic, and lots of techniques that we use to make it more realistic, more grounded in the environment.
Because we were using a lot of procedural stuff on top of the animation, we have a layer of physics on top of the assassin all the time. We went to mocap, and we would actually capture an actor running around, shifting his weight, changing his balance, putting his feet different places, and then we just take that and be able to use it as reference and then animate it and try and recreate it with programs.
We want to have animations that are responsive, so that if you press a button, you want to have it happen really fast. You don't want to have to wait for the nice motion of the guy coming in and swinging. Our animators, they go in, they decide, okay, this is going to be our enter frame, and they decide at which points they can exit, at which point they can use a counter. So we really break down our animations into multiple small animations that can then be adjusted for gameplay with our programmers.
We wanted the combat in AC3 to be more brutal than it was before. We wanted it to be rougher. I think anytime you have a war setting, it is by definition a little more brutal. And we also felt that the setting itself was a little dirtier. You know what I mean? Lots of the story of the American Revolution is the story of people versus the elements, or people versus armies, or people versus hunger. And we wanted that to come through even in the fighting style.
Whereas Previous assassins, just they'd stab. This assassin bludgeons and he beats up and he breaks arms and legs. Because he's stronger, he can lift characters up, so we put in a lot of wrestling moves in there as well. We basically threw out the old fight system, started again from scratch, so a lot of the controls have changed, and we managed to keep it really fluid though. You can counter at any stage, and we cover all different distances.
For us, we wanted to create more strategy, more options, more ways of challenging the player. So we settled on this scheme where instead of using the right trigger to counter, you would tap B. It would start a counter, but you would have to choose on the face buttons how to finish that counter. So you can hit B again and you'll just throw the guy. You can hit A and you'll stun him, disarm him, hit X and you'll kill him, hit Y and you'll use your tool. So with that, we can create enemies that'll resist any of those moves. We can challenge you to basically take a different approach on each enemy archetype that you come against.
Connor himself is a dual-wielding specialist. He's always using two weapons at the same time. It allows for a beautiful animation. It also allows for more fluidity in the player response.
We found that it was really nice to always have the knife. You can always have the knife and a sword, or a knife and a tomahawk, and a knife and the other hidden blade. It made us able to do a lot more fast moves, directional things. One thing that was cool though is facial expressions, and that really adds a lot. We bring in the camera close and you'll see Connor's effort, and you'll see the pain on the enemy's faces when he's taking them out.
With the combo killing, we looked at it and we basically just said, hey, we want this to be really generous, but only if you have the right strategy for attacking people. You can chain your kills in between people, and you kill one person, move to the next, and move to the next. But the enemies, we wanted them to be able to interrupt you in the middle of that. We want them to be able to defend themselves from that. We want the player to have to choose the correct approach against a different enemy archetype to defeat them. So we're bringing the same sort of model of choose the correct face button to continue your kill streak.
Hopefully, in the end, we've delivered a really well-rounded, believable character who, you have mixed feelings about throughout the game. At the end, you love him, but I'm also hoping that for once in a game, you have moments where you understand his conflict with other characters.
That decision to do the Frontier affected absolutely everything. It's almost a 2K by 2K world.
We spent a long time looking at rock climbing and different handholds that you have to use.
We really wanted to show off and do a lot with the animals, not just about navigation and reactions.
To execute the tree running was one of our biggest challenges. That effort alone took so many people, so much time to get right.
We didn't want it to look like Tarzan. We wanted the forest to look real.